If you struggle to know which directions to make your shading marks when figure drawing, watch this video and you will understand how to use knowledge of the form's surface to influence your shading marks. Now, on the left-hand side, I have an exercise that was already done where I'm using lines to go over the surface of the form on the photograph in order to think about the directions of the surface. So it's kind of like a topographical map. Now, this is not necessarily an easy thing to accomplish. It can be a little difficult, especially at first, to understand what those directions might be like. And this is the reason that I'm using a model wearing clothing, because you can see that some of the lines follow the clothing as it goes around the model. So once you do this exercise, and if you would like an in-depth tutorial into this, check out my Patreon page, which is patreon.com/School of Realist Art, and you will see how I created every single line on this exercise. But once you can do this, then you can use those ideas to show how to make marks along the figure. So over on the right hand side of the screen, you see I am in the middle of drawing this figure and I am making marks that are going especially along the marks that go around the form. So the ones that are more kind of horizontal. At first, I just made shading marks going kind of diagonally from the upper right to the lower left, just because that's really comfortable for my hand to do. So I did that first to block in the entire shadow. And then I started going around the form perpendicular to that shadow edge in order to start to create some halftone and to use the marks to show what's happening on the surface. Now I'm using a lot of vertical marks, again, kind of going in the direction of the vertical marks on the figure. So the key here is not just to make literal vertical marks and literal horizontal marks, because that will make something that kind of looks like the screen that's in your window and it's going to look flat. So you want to imagine that you can take that screen and lay it over the surface of the figure so that the angle of each line changes as the angle of the surface of the form changes. Now, again, this is not the easiest idea. So use pictures like this that show clothing so that you can see the way that the clothing goes around the rib cage or goes around the hips, or the way that the straps vertically on this bathing suit go over the top of the shoulder. You can also use pictures where somebody has a t-shirt going around the arm, or shorts going around the legs, or even socks or stockings. Anything that's going to give you some kind of a landmark on the figure to help you see kind of what direction the surface of the figure is going. Of course, any amount of understanding of perspective is going to help this as well, since perspective plays a little bit of a part in figure drawing. I also want to point out that right there, if you just rewind like 20 seconds, I made a big change and correction in the proportion of the figure. So I used a contour line there to kind of bring in the form, and I do that all the time when I'm drawing. I just like to mention that whenever I see it happen, because I think we give ourselves a lot of crap as artists, and every time we correct something, we kind of make ourselves feel like we're not really a good artist because we made a mistake and we had to correct it. And my motto is that that is just part of the process. Every single artist makes mistakes and then corrects them. Anyway, you'll see that I'm shading with white charcoal, and most of these lines again are going horizontally kind of around the figure. The important part for me is not necessarily that it's horizontal, but it's that it's perpendicular to that shadow edge. And I really find starting off going around the form gives you the most bang for your buck in terms of showing what is happening with the form. So I do that first, and then second, I look for lines that are more going kind of vertically along the form. Now, this isn't to say that you should just make horizontal and vertical lines because all different kinds of mark directions could be included here on the figure. So what I mean by that is if you're a bug, you could walk horizontally along the figure and you could imagine that path. You could walk vertically along the figure and you could also walk diagonally. But the idea is just to start off an understanding of the surface of the form so that you can begin to understand all those other directions too. I don't personally believe that there are right ways and like absolutely correct ways to make your marks, but there are some that give you more or less information. Now, I'm keeping this short for YouTube because YouTube seems to prefer shorter videos. But if you would like to see every single mark of this exercise on the left-hand side and every single mark of the demonstration, go to patreon.com/School of Realist Art. If you want a full figure drawing course, you'll find one at figuredrawingacademy.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.